people are on our prayer list. Oh, and Thanksgiving, be with everybody with fun times and family times at Thanksgiving, but have you at the center of everything, Lord. And thank you most for sending Jesus so we can all be in heaven together one day. In Jesus' name, amen.
I'm having tubes put in my ears.
Oh.
Something
Usually
that-
it's babies and 10, 4 or 5-year-olds. Now we have a 70-something getting it. Yes.
Yeah.
Hey, if it
I've not
works.
been able to hear since September, and I feel like I'm in a drum when I
Yes,
talk.
I understand that.
That full box.
It's driving me and
Yeah.
they've had me on steroids.
Nothing.
So, tubes.
I feel like I'm kind of sinus stuffed a little.
Well, that's,
Me too.
I have no
Everybody, this
allergies
time of
Yeah.
year.
and no sinus issues.
Yeah. Mine comes and goes.
Well, this one's staying.
Yeah.
I wish it would go.
Okay, right side, the feet look up today.
All right, start out at Genesis
Genesis.
35, 16 to 19. That talks about the birth of Benjamin. 35, 16 to 19. And the interesting thing about this, which I never put these things together before. All right, Benjamin was the only son that wasn't born in Mesopotamia. He's the only son that was born in Canaan when they were on their way where they were going, and they were close to Ephratah, which is Bethlehem, and that's where Rachel died. And they have in Bethlehem today in Israel, they have a big, I think it's the same thing as what Jacob did, this memorial he put up for her. And this is like the third most reverenced, like after the temple, etc. Well, there isn't a temple anymore, but reverence for the Israelites is the thing of Rachel, which is interesting since Jacob is God's person, but whatever. All right, so 35, 16 through 19. Well, this is also too, Jacob has had God come to him, not the time when he changed his name, but God came to him again. After he saw Esau, then God came to him and said, I'm blessing you, you're getting what Abraham and Isaac were promised, you're gonna get it too. And then, so they're on their way to Canaan, and this is when Rachel breathes their last. So, 16 through 19. And they journeyed from Bethel, and there was but a little way to come to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Rachel travailed, and she had hard labor. And it came to pass, when she was in hard labor, that the midwife said to her, Fear not, thou shalt have this son also. And it came to pass, as her soul was in departing, for she died, that she called his name Benoni, but his father called him Benjamin. And Rachel died and was buried in the way to Ephrath, which is Bethlehem. And Jacob set a pillar upon her grave. That is the pillar of Rachel's grave unto this day. The other thing that's interesting in the commentaries or the sermons I was listening to, you don't think about, that was a hard, she was 9 months pregnant. They're on camels, or if she was lucky, it's hot in the desert, it's cold at night. This was really tough, and I don't think she was as tough as Leah. I think Leah was a lot tougher than Rachel. She was kind of the babyhead. But, and that was probably too why she had such a hard time. And what a shame.
Leah had a lot to be toughened up about.
Right, constant, so. Oh, and also the interesting thing, Jacob was 100 when Benjamin was born. Just like Abraham, when, Isaac was born.
How old was Rachel, do you think?
I think she was way younger, but I don't know, I didn't find anywhere where it said, but she could have been way, way younger, because they got married when.
Wasn't he in his 40s when he got married or thereabouts? So she
Probably,
would be
yeah.
at least 15.
Yeah, right.
So
So we're talking, he was in his 40s and she was 15, so let's go 25 years.
she may have been 70. Whoa,
Not
Nelly.
have a baby.
Of course, it was the second one, but still.
40, 45, and then when you stop bearing children.
Right. But she called him Ben-Oni, which means the son of my sorrow, son of my affliction. And Jacob immediately changed his name to Benjamin because he didn't want the bad luck to be on him. And names in those days were indications of your character, your destiny, your circumstances, and the name really meant something. And that what Benjamin also looked at was courage, military strength, and favor, what Benjamin meant. Okay, and think about too, okay, we have this baby, he doesn't have a mother. Rachel's gone, everybody's not real happy with the way Jacob's been with Rachel and not their own kids and not Leah and the others. So who raised him? Was it Leah? Was it, one of the handmaidens? Who was it? But
Family.
And who was in nursing condition.
right.
Yeah.
So there, some things you never think about. Okay, she died. Well, move on. What the commentators thought, it was probably either Leah or Bilhah, because that was Rachel's, handmaid, and so, but don't know. So,
Could have been team.
yeah, right, teamwork too. So then Benjamin, he is not part of when this whole thing with Joseph happens and he's in his coat of many colors and Jacob sends him to check on his brothers, and that had been an ongoing problem too, because Joseph, apparently, Jacob would send him to check on his brothers and he'd come back with bad reports. So add that to how angry you are about the way favoritism, and then about the dreams about you're gonna bow down to me. The brothers just weren't happy with him. So Jacob sends him out to check on the brothers, and they're at Shechem, which is interesting. Shechem seems to have a whole, all through these stories, Shechem pops up. So they're at Shechem. First he can't find them because he thought they were gonna be at Dothan. And he talks to men at Dothan and said, you know where my brothers were? And they said, told him, yeah, they went on to Shechem, they thought. So he gets to Shechem and they see him coming with his coat of many colors, and they said, let's kill him. We've had enough of this kid. So he comes up and they attack him, but Reuben wants to save him and said, no, let's not kill him, let's just throw him in the pit. So they threw him in the pit, and it was a waterless pit, probably scary and deep. And then Reuben left, and who knows why? That was another one of the commentaries. Why did Reuben leave?
Didn't it kind of imply that he was gonna sneak back and get him out?
take him
Yeah.
So he stayed full
Apart.
face with the brothers.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that didn't work out so well.
No.
The Midianite traders and Ishmaelites came by, and Judah said, okay, let's sell him, because, why kill him? He's our brother. And so they sold him for 20 pieces of silver, and he's off down to Egypt. Another point that the commentators brought up, why didn't Joseph ever protest? Why didn't he say, those are my brothers? Presuming that Jacob was well known, and Abraham and Isaac, but the Ishmaelites and the Midianites knew about Abraham. And why didn't he ever say, I'm the son of Jacob, the grandson of Abraham, or grandson of Ishmael, the great-grandson of Abraham? Why didn't he ever protest? And another interesting question that people brought up was, once he became, after all his trials in Egypt, once he became the high up second to Pharaoh, why didn't he go back to Jacob and the brothers? At least to Jacob and to Benjamin, because Benjamin wasn't involved in the selling thing. So once he became the Bizar of Egypt, why didn't he send, or at least send people back to see if Jacob was still alive, or if Benjamin was still alive? Don't know. Maybe he was so angry about his brothers, and it took him that time to get over what was going on. I also like in Genesis 42, 36 to 38, we're pretty close to it. 36 to 38, 42, 36 to 38. 36 to 38. And it came to pass as they emptied the 35, and behold, every man's bundle of money was in his sack. And when both they and their father saw the bundles of money, they were afraid. This is after they went to Egypt the first time, and Joseph put the money back into all their sacks. And so they get home and they're going, looking at the grains and stuff they get, and they find out that the money's still in the sack, so everybody gets afraid that what's going on here? And Jacob their father said unto them, me have ye bereaved of my children. Joseph is not, and Simeon is not, and yet you will take Benjamin away. All these things are against me. Kind of, everything's about me. Simeon is there supposedly in jail in Egypt, and it's all, everybody's against me. Really? You're God's chosen. I just find that I have a really hard time being very sympathetic towards Jacob. The way he he treated the not sons of Rachel, and you know, it just provoked it. And didn't he see that? Didn't he see what was going on? You know, you're provoking your children to this, and I think it was may have been one of the reasons why Reuben did what he did, you know, because he wanted to be seen. Well, he was seen. That didn't work out so well for him. But anyway, everything is against me, says whining Jacob, is what I wrote. And the reason he was presumably so concerned about Benjamin not going was that was his last contact with Rachel, right? Because he thought Joseph was gone. So anyway, the first time they went, that's when Joseph said, you know, you're spies. No, we're not spies. Prove it. But I'm keeping. You have a younger brother, then you know, bring him next time. And I'm keeping one of your brothers here to make sure you can show up and have him next time. Have the younger brother next time. And so he picked Simeon, and I wonder if he picked Simeon because he had been so mean to him. You know, he's getting it back. So anyway, so they go back to Jacob. They find out about the money still in the thing, and Joseph told them that time that don't come back for anything more and to get Simeon unless you have the youngest brother there, and to prove you're not spies. So they go home, and they said they eventually run out of food, so they have to go back. And Jacob says, no, you're not taking my son. No. Which is another thing, you know. I'm going to be dead if he's no longer with me. What about the rest of us? You know, the other 11. Really? You're going to be dead for this one? What about the rest of us? Especially Judah, who's, you know, Jesus. But anyway, finally, first Reuben, like we talked about, says to Jacob, I promise, if I don't bring Benjamin back, you can kill my 2 sons, which was kind of extreme, and kind of the way I guess Reuben was, and that's why Jacob really didn't trust him. But then Judah stepped up and said, we got to do this. If we don't go, we're all going to die.
Yeah.
So he said, oh, Judah must have had a more imposing presence. And so he said, yeah, you can take him. And Judah said, you know, it'll be on me forever if I don't bring him back. What does that mean? It'll be on you forever, but whatever. So Jacob agrees. They go to Egypt to get the food, and and that was also, it shows, okay, it'd been 20 years now since Joseph had seen Benjamin. So Benjamin was probably 5, 6 when because Joseph was 17 when he got sold into Egypt, so Benjamin was probably 5 or 6, so now he's 25, and seeing him for the first time, and isn't it that Joseph recognized his brothers immediately? I can understand why they didn't recognize him, because he was probably all duded up in the
Well, and he was a little boy.
Right.
Looks changed, but the boys, the older ones.
Right,
were
probably,
more adultish.
right, you're right.
It didn't change quite so much.
Right, and also, I've seen like pictures of it and the movies and stuff, and Joseph is all, you know, make-uped up and has all the stuff on the paraphernalia around him, so it might have been a little bit hard, especially who would even think that?
Yeah.
That your brother that you sold into slavery is now second in line.
But don't you think they probably think he might have been dead too?
That somehow he would, right, so they wouldn't be, you know.
Looking for him.
Right. They just wanted money. So on Genesis 43:16, oh no, it starts at 43, 11 to 14. And their father Israel said unto them, if it must be so now, do this, take of the best fruits in the land in your vessels, and carry them down to the man a present, a little balm and a little honey, spices and myrrh, nuts and almonds. Like I said the last time, why weren't they eating that? Why were they so starving? They had honey, spices, myrrh, nuts and almonds. Not myrrh, they weren't gonna eat myrrh, but nuts and almonds. I mean, that it wouldn't be real, but it wouldn't keep you from starving. And take double money in your hand, and the money that was brought again in the mouth of your sacks, carry it again in your hand. Peradventure it was an oversight. Take also your brother, and arise, go again unto the man. And God Almighty give you mercy before the man, that he may send away your other brother and Benjamin. If I be bereaved of my children, I am bereaved. So I guess here he's,
What will be, will be.
yeah, right. So, okay, so they, and on 43:16, and they took, well, anyway, they took the presents, they took double money in their hand, and Benjamin, and rose up and went down to Egypt and stood before Joseph. And when Joseph saw Benjamin with them, he said to the ruler of his house, bring these men home and slay, and make ready for it. Slay, it doesn't have it here, but slay, an animal, and make ready, for these men shall dine with me at noon. And the man did as Joseph bade, and the man brought the men unto Joseph's house, and they were afraid. And Joseph had the servants line them up in how their ages were, and they were just, they were just astounded. How does he know this? Is he a prophetess? So, okay, so then,
What an accident.
right, really, so in 29 to 30, when he's feeding him, and he lifted up his eyes and saw his brother Benjamin, his mother's son, and said, is this your younger brother of whom you spake unto me? And he said, God be gracious unto thee, my son. And Joseph made haste, for his bowels did yearn upon his brother, and he sought where to weep. And he entered into his chamber and wept there. And he washed his face and came out and refrained himself and said, set on bread. And they set on for him by himself, and for them by themselves, and for the Egyptians which did eat with him by themselves, because the Egyptians might not eat bread with the Hebrews, for this was an abomination to the Egyptians. So they were all in different places, and he gave Benjamin 5 times the amount of food that he gave all the other brothers. And that was the beginning of the test to see how the brothers would react when Benjamin was favored over all of them.
And they still couldn't figure that out.
I know, really, all right. So, okay, so Joseph does the deceit and trick. In Genesis 44, 1-2, and he commanded the steward of his house, saying, fill the men's sacks with food as much as they can carry, and put every man's money in the sack's mouth, and put my cup, the silver cup, in the sack's mouth of the youngest, and his corn money. And he did according to the word that Joseph had spoken. And then Joseph sends after him and said, somebody stole my silver cup. And they all like, no, not it. And so they go rummaging through it all, and they find it in Benjamin's sack, and they're all freaked out. This is what Dad thought was gonna happen. So, 44, 1 and 2, 44, 12 and 13. Okay, 12 and 13. And he searched and began at the eldest and left at the youngest, and the cup was found in Benjamin's sack. Then they rent their clothes and laden every man his ass and returned to the city. This was at the beginning of the test, because they could have said, okay, Benjamin, it's your deal, goodbye. So, but they all rent their clothes and then go back into the city to try and figure out what's going on and to save Benjamin.
But Benjamin was quite relaxed and happy. I think he had a divine intervention. That
Right.
Joseph was his brother in some way. If you look at it, you would think, because he wasn't upset, and he was just calm, and even though the cup was in his sack, he didn't worry about it. There's something between them two that I think that
Right.
unite them in a way. Could be.
Okay, so the boys go into deep despair and mourning, tearing their clothes. And Judah and his 44, 14 to 16. And Judah and his brethren came to Joseph's house, for he was yet there, and they fell before him on the ground. And Joseph said unto them, What deed is this that ye have done? Wot not you that such a man as I can certainly divine, which means be able to decide what's going on. And Judah said, What shall we say unto my Lord? What shall we speak, or how shall we clear ourselves? God hath found out the iniquity of thy servants. Behold, we are thy Lord's servants, both we and he also with whom the cup is found. And he said, God forbid that I should do so, but the man in whose hand the cup is found, he shall be my servant. And as for you, get up and go in peace to your father. So they're saying, we'll all be your servants. And he said, no, I won't, that's unfair. I'll just be the guy that had the silver cup. And then in Genesis 44, 18 to 34 is Judah's speech, and it's one of the most best speeches in all the Bible, where he talks about, Then Judah came near him and said, O my Lord, let thy servant, I pray thee, speak a word in my Lord's ears, and let not thine anger burn against thy servant, for thou art even as Pharaoh. My Lord asked his servant, saying, Have ye a father or a brother? And we said unto my Lord, We have a father, an old man, and a child in his old age, a little one, and his brother is dead, and he alone is left of his mother, and his father loveth him. That must have been hard to say. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Bring him down unto thee, that I may set my eyes upon him. And we said unto my Lord, The lad cannot leave his father, for if he would leave his father would die. And thou saidst unto thy servants, Except your youngest brother come down with you, you shall not see my face no more. And it came to pass, when we came up unto thy servant my father, we told him the words of my Lord, and our father said, Go again and buy us a little food. And we said, We cannot go down if our youngest brother be with us, and we can go down. For we may not see the man's face, except our youngest brother be with us. And thy servant my father said unto us, You know that my wife bare me 2 sons. How about the other 10? But okay. My wife bare me 2 sons, and the one went out with me, and I said, Surely he is torn in pieces, and I saw him not since. And if you take this one also from me, and mischief befall him, you shall bring down my gray hairs with sorrow to the grave. Now therefore, when I come to thy servant my father, and the lad be not with us, seeing that his life is bound up in the lad's life, it shall come to pass, when he seeth that the lad is not with us, that he will die. And thy servant shall bring down the gray hairs of thy servant our father with sorrow to the grave. For thy servant became surety for the lad unto my father, saying, If I bring him not back unto thee, then I shall bear the blame to my father forever. Now therefore I pray thee, let thy servant abide instead of the lad, a bondsman to the Lord, and let the lad go up with his brethren. For how shall I go up to my father, and the lad be not with me, lest peradventure I see the evil that shall come upon my father. So this was, Joseph knew that they had changed, that Judah, who had told him, let's sell this guy, now saying, I'll be the one that'll stay and be your servant, but let him go. And his pleading for Jacob also, and about how he loved his 2 sons, which, okay. So and 45, 14, and 15, and this is when he tells all the Egyptians to leave the room, and that's when he reveals who he is, that I am Joseph. Okay, so 14, and he fell upon his brother Benjamin's neck and wept, and Benjamin wept upon his neck. Moreover, he kissed all his brethren and wept upon them, and after that his brethren talked with him. And the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's, the fame thereof was heard in Pharaoh's house, saying, Joseph's brethren are come, and it has pleased Pharaoh well, and his servants. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Say unto thy brethren, This do ye, lade your beasts and go, get ye into the land of Canaan. So Pharaoh is so impressed with Joseph and likes him so much that it extends to Joseph's brothers and family, and he gives them wagons to take all the food back to the family.
Good change of heart.
Say what?
It's a good change of heart for Pharaoh.
Right. So, okay. So then the next thing we see is, Genesis 49:27, which is the blessing, Joseph's blessing, when he's doing when he's dying, and he tells, all his sons. And this one is Benjamin. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. And this indicated that Benjamin was gonna be a really, really fierce warrior. And in fact, and we're gonna see that when we talk about the Gibeah thing. There was, when that all started, Israel, the rest of Israel's tribes got 400,000 men together to fight Benjamin's. And Benjamin only had 26,000, and they fought for 3 days, and the Benjaminites won the first 2 days. The first day they killed 22,000 of the Israelites, and the second day they killed 18,000. And the Israelites went back to the camp and said, why are we doing this? We can't, as small as they are, because Benjamin is the smallest tribe, and becomes even smaller after all that. But why are we doing this? We can't seem to win. And God told them, they got the message that you're gonna win the next day. So go again. Because they inquired of God if they should fight their brothers, and God told them each time, yes. So they did, and we're gonna get into that. Is really a sad, I'm sure you all know the story, but it is a very sad story. So this, the metaphor of the wolf is his ferocity, his agility, his shrewdness, his swiftness, and fierce fighter, and that was what Benjamin became. And also, in the Benjamins, the tribal Benjamin, they would have periods of prosperity, and then they'd have periods of wantonness, but it would always go back to the prosperity. And in Joshua 18:11, where it says the tribal lot of Benjamin, the place they got there in Israel was between Judah and Joseph. So they were in a safe place pretty much, but they were safe from the outside, but there was always trouble between Judah and Joseph's tribe, or Ephraim's tribe, and Judah, so they were always caught in the middle. So, also where their land was, it was a strategic trade route, which seems to be, we've seen that in almost every one of them, that they're on a strategic trade route. And then they also that Benjamin was a great mediator, that he could mediate between Judah and Joseph, and also with the people that come across the trade routes. Also, part of their tribal land is Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. So
Benjamin?
Yeah, Benjamin.
Not on this map.
I'm wondering about that map. Can I see it again?
It's north of Jerusalem.
No, look. Jerusalem's right there.
Jerusalem's down in the yellow, the little dot.
No, it's not. It's in the blue. Look.
It's in the yellow.
Oh, I can read that.
So, thank you. I would have believed you. Yes, it is in Benjamin's land.
Yeah, it is.
But they didn't have control of it. That was controlled by a pagan tribe. And it took a while before they ever got control of Jerusalem. And Benjamin had a lot of famous descendants. The first one they talk about is Ehud, and he was one of the first judges in the period of the judges. And he's the one that, the other thing about the Benjaminites, they were left-handed warriors. And that freaked out everybody else, because they always thought that their right hand would be pulling for on the left side, but they had it on the right side. And a lot of times when they were searching them, they didn't find it because they were only looking on the right side. So Ehud was going to the Midianites, Eglon, who had controlled or ruled over Israel for 18 years. So he went in and he said he was bringing tribute. And he said he had a very specific message, but only for Eglon. So his people shut Ehud and Eglon in together. He pulled, and they checked him for any weapons, but they didn't see it because it was on the other side. He pulled out from his left side and stabbed Eglon. And Eglon was so fat, the knife disappeared in him and came out the other side. So he was dead. And Ehud got out because he went out a different way. And the people the kings, whatever they called him, Eglon's people were outside waiting for him to say, come in, come in. He didn't. They said, well, he must be going to the bathroom, so we won't disturb him. So after a while, they decided this has been too long. So they break down the door and find him dead. But that freed Israel for that 18 years. That was the freedom of Israel. So then the next one, that Esther and Mordecai were Benjaminites. So, and one of the commentators said that when he said the wolf divides the spoils at night, that could have been referring to when Mordecai and Esther divided the spoils of Haman. But I think that's kind of a stretch, but okay. Saul was a Benjamite. The first king of Israel was a Benjamite. Pretty disappointing Benjamite. But he was ahead about everybody, and he was a very imposing presence. Although when they told him he was gonna be king, he hid in the luggage. And then they pulled him out and said, you're king, so he became king. I think that would be a pretty shaky beginning, you're hiding. But anyway, he took it on after that, but he kept disobeying Samuel and God. And Paul was a Benjaminite. He was very proud of that fact. I'm a Pharisee of Pharisees, a Benjamite of Benjamites and stuff, but that was, he was very proud of the fact, and it was lucky Paul. It's amazing after what happened, what happens at Gibeah, that these people came out of Benjamin, because Benjamites were down to 600 men of the total, okay, we're gonna go over this, but I find it hard. Where were the Benjamite women? But according to the Bible, I'll get to where it is, that there was this Levite. Oh, and I have a problem with this Levite too. This Levite had his concubine, and she went back home to her father, and then he came and got her, and the fathers kept saying, stay here, and he said, no, finally they went. And so I don't know where they were going, but they were going somewhere, and they got to Gibeah, which is and they thought they were safe because it was Benjamite land and they were Israelites. And so, and what you did apparently in those days when you go into town, you wander around and see if somebody's gonna ask you if you'll come in, and there were no inns or there were any restaurants and stuff. You had to wait and see if people, and nobody was offering him anything. But finally this old man came out and said, you need to, don't sleep in the square. But you come home. So they went to his house, they had food and wine and everything, and then like in Sodom and Gomorrah, these evil men of the town came to his door and started banging on his door and said, give us that man that came in, we want to abuse him. And the old man came out and he was really scared, and he said, no, you can't do this to my, for the Israelites were so big on hospitality. You can't do this. I've offered him hospitality. You can have my virgin daughter. And yeah, listen to this. And the Levite said, you can have my concubine, but don't do anything to me. Oh. So they said, no, we want the man. And because the Levite was so afraid, he threw the concubine out. They raped her and abused her all night long. And the morning, when morning came, she crawled up to the door, and they didn't even answer the door. I mean, maybe they didn't hear it or something, but you'd think they'd be watching to see. And when the Levite opens the door, he sees her laying there, and he said, come on, let's go. And she didn't answer her, because she was dead. Okay, so he's so upset. I don't know why he wasn't punished. But anyway, so he took it, he put the dead concubine on his donkey, went to wherever he was going, cut her up into 12 pieces and sent each of the tribes a piece of her and saying, this is what happened at Gibeah. And the rest of the Israelites are all, freaked out. I still don't understand, why aren't we freaked out about him? He threw her out there. But anyway, so they're all upset about this. This is an evil that can't be in our midst. We gotta get rid of the Benjamite tribe. So they did though, the 400,000, can you imagine that amount of people? 400,000 of the Israelites, of all the tribes, showed up at Gibeah. But they first went to the elders of the city and said, give us the evil men, we will kill them, and that'll be the end of it, get rid of the evil in Israel. And the Benjaminites said, nope, we're not giving us the men, we're not giving up the men. The tribal loyalties were more important than their morals, I guess. So they start for battle, and the Benjaminites only had 26,000 people. The Israelites had 400,000. First day of the attack, they were.
Wait, I'm confused. Benjamites are Israelites.
Yes, but we're talking about not the Benjamin, the 11 other tribes of the Israelites.
All right.
So, right, the rest of the Israelite tribes.
Okay.
Okay, so they all meet and they say, okay, we'll give you the chance. No, we're not gonna have our men, which was so stupid because everybody went then. So the first day they were really good with slings and swords and archery. So they were killing like crazy, apparently. They got 22,000 the rest of the Israelites that day. And it doesn't say how many of the Benjamites on that day got killed. The second day, they said, okay, we're gonna get them this day. And that's when they killed 18,000 of the other Israelites. And so that's when they said, I don't know if we can keep this up. We can't beat them. And that's when God told them, no, you're gonna win the next day. So what happened the next day, they had some strategy finally, I guess. Part of the Israelites went behind the city of Gibeah, and the rest stayed in front, and they came after them, and the Benjaminites thought, well, we're gonna kill another round and we'll be okay. Well, in the meantime, the other set of Israelites came into Gibeah and started the city on fire. And so they see the city's on fire, the Israelites are in front of them. They wipe out the Benjaminites, and all there is left of the 26,000 is 600 men. And what about all the women and children? It doesn't say that, but that's their 600, and they escaped. They went to the hills of, I can't remember, Rimmon. The rocks of Rimmon, there were places where you could really hide. And that's when the Israelites got together a little late in the game and said, these are our brothers. We can't lose a whole tribe of Israelites. So they decided, but there's no women, so they're not gonna be able to have any women. So what the Israelites did, they went they asked who didn't show up to support us against Benjamin, and the Jabesh something or other didn't come up. These Israelites, the Israelites of Jabesh didn't come to help against the Benjaminites, so they just went to them and took 400 women to use as their wives for the Benjamites. But that was not enough, because there were 600 men and they only had 400. Yeah, right. Yeah. No, but then they said there was a festival going on, and that the women, and this was in where was this place? There was a festival going on. I gotta figure out where it is. And the women were going out and dancing and stuff, and they stayed in the bushes and waited, and then they grabbed 600 women and became their wives. Wouldn't you love that? No. But that's what kept the Benjamites going, because it would have been gone with 600 men and no women. And like I said, wasn't there other areas where there were men and women and stuff with Benjamites? They had it didn't have a big area, but still. So anyway, and the Benjamites show up once again as one of the 12,000 of the tribes in Revelation that are the evangelists. and also at the gates on Revelation the last, okay. Oh dear. Okay, heaven is going again, light. Oh, and also Benjamin's stone was jasper, in case you were wondering. And I don't find where it says about the gates. I didn't write it down. All right, well, they're in the 12,000 of the 145,000, and they are on one of the gates on the side. I can't find it. All right, and back to, remember we always talked about when Jacob would give his blessing or his prediction to his sons, it wasn't always a blessing like with Simeon and Levi and Reuben. But Moses gave his blessing on Benjamin in Deuteronomy 33:12.
With reference again?
Deuteronomy 33:12. I hate saying that so hard.
Yeah.
33:12. All right. And of Benjamin, this is Moses now, right before they're going into the promised land and where he's blessing all the tribes. And of Benjamin he said, the beloved of the Lord shall dwell in safety by him, and the Lord shall cover him all the day long, and he shall dwell between his shoulders. And the commentaries seem to indicate that that was what he was saying, is that he's between Judah and Joseph. And so he shall dwell between his shoulders, and he's protected by them. But that always didn't work out so well. And then Joseph always gets the longest. Joseph is in 33:13. And of Joseph he said, blessed of the Lord be his land, for the precious things of heaven, for the dew and for the deep that couches beneath, and for the precious fruits brought forth by the sun, and for the precious things put forth by the moon, and for the chief things of the ancient mountains, and for the precious things of the lasting hills, and for the precious things of the earth and fullness thereof, and for the goodwill of him that dwelt in the bush. Let the blessings come upon the head of Joseph and upon the top of his head that was separated from his brethren. That's talking about when he got shipped off.
See you ladies Sunday.
Okay, be careful.
Maybe I can hear.
That would be wonderful.
Yes,
That'd be
yes. Go, girl. His glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth. And they are the 10,000 of Ephraim, and they are the thousands of Manasseh. And that seems that they say he's pushed the people together to the ends of the earth. That's talking about he's the one that's gonna be the descendant of Messiah. And all this stuff about his glory and precious things. Joseph was a very prosperous tribe, and even when it broke up between Manasseh and Ephraim, although Manasseh was more that had a lot of land, and Ephraim had important people in his tribe. And the first fruitness talks of Joseph's life, and 25 to 26, oh no, that's in Genesis 49, when they're talking about Jacob's blessing of Joseph is Genesis 49, 22 to 26. See, he gets a whole bunch more too. 49, 22 to 26. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him, and shot at him, and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. even by God of thy father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee with blessings of heaven above, blessings of the deep that lieth under, blessings of the breast and of the womb. The blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors, unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. They shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. Separate from his brethren refers to Egypt, and all these blessings refers to the fact that he stayed close to God the entire time. And another thing, interesting thing, whenever Joseph speaks in the Bible, he almost always refers to God. There's always a reference to God when Joseph himself is speaking. So that's why he had such more blessings, etc., because he was the one that was closest to God, and he didn't have to change like the brothers did to become closer to God.
That could have been why there was not a lot of animosity and that kind of thing to his brothers.
Right, and the fact, yeah, that, you know, he's close to God, and God knew he wanted to forgive, but I still don't understand why he didn't go back and find out about Jacob and stuff. He had the wherewithal, he had, you know, but maybe at that time he still wasn't as forgiving as he became. Joseph married Asenath, who was given to him once Pharaoh made him second command. He gave him his wife Asenath, who was the daughter of a priest, and I don't think it was a priest of God, but it's the priest of On, and I forgot to look it up to see who On was, but she was the daughter, but presumably she became part of the Christian and raised the sons as Christians. So, and one of the other things said that Benjamin was really handsome because he took after his mother, and she was known to be Rachel to be so beautiful. Ephraim had the greatest individuals in his tribe because Joshua was an Ephraimite, but Manasseh had the largest land allotment. It was on both sides of the Jordan. Is it in there? Can I see it? I can't find what I did with mine.
That's a big one, is Ephraim.
Not as big as Judah or Manasseh. Look at Manasseh.
Manasseh.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Manasseh is on both sides of the.
Cuts
Oh,
everything in half.
and that was another thing about, Manasseh got such a big thing because of his son of Joseph.
Well, one half on one side and the other, where we had half of Manasseh was on the other side.
Right. So, okay, so there's. And I think, I don't know, I can't tell you. There were, these places I go there, okay. Benjamin in the Bible, he was Jacob's 12th son. His birth was blessed by God. He was born when his father was 100. His mother Rachel died in childbirth, we know all that. He was initially named by his mother, he was renamed by his father. And it's interesting too, how the women named all these sons. Because I thought it was generally that the fathers would be the ones that named, but throughout this, like Leah always named the kids, and I don't know, and I guess she named, then Rachel and Leah named their handmaidens' kids. But, he resembled his mother, his father fretted over him. That was another interesting thing, he supposedly said to his father, how can somebody that's been so, watched over and babied by you become a ferocious wolf?
And wasn't even Jesus' name revealed to Mary, not to Joseph? Was it? Was that the way it was? Jesus' name revealed to Mary by the angel.
Or was it
Yeah.
Joseph?
Was it Joseph?
I know, I'm not saying it was,
I
but
don't remember.
you shall name his name, who did
Mary.
tell?
Said
Mary
that
said
I
to,
think it's Mary.
it was Mary that the angel said to
I
name
think so,
Jesus.
but I'm not
Yeah.
sure.
But I gotta look that up
Look
and
it up,
see if
but I
it was
think it's
generally,
Mary.
because throughout all this, we've seen the moms are the ones that named the children. Oh, and the Benjamin means son of my right hand. And right hand means strength, and that was the beginning of the presumption that he was going to be really strong.
Who were the left-handed ones?
The Ehud Benjaminites. But, well, no, they weren't left-handed, they just used their they weren't left-handed, they trained themselves to use their left hand, so they would surprise everybody. And they were archers, they were amazing archers and slingers, and that sort of thing. So, but remember, so was Gad, when we talked about Gad, he was like the super, person in being with archery and everything. So I guess he wasn't doing so well when he went against the Benjaminites in Gibeah, but, and Joseph, I'm just trying. So who's everybody's favorite son? 10 sons, and they were born in Egypt. Most of them were born in Egypt. But he had 10 sons, and he named all his sons. That's what he told Joseph supposedly. He named all of his 10 sons in something to do with Joseph. Where is that thing? And that's how he proved to Joseph that he loved him and that he was his true brother. Right. I don't know if I can find that where it had the. Oh, of course I can't find it now. Joseph and Mary, oh, Benjamin. Well, can't find it, but the 12 sons all had a name that was like, you know, hostage or something like that, but all of them did, each of them after him. Google what it says, the names.
Contradiction, like they say, one say 10, one say 3, one say.
Well, here it
Like
says,
them. Yeah.
Wait, look again at Numbers 38. Bela, Ashabel, Aharam, that's 3, Shuphan, Hupin, and Bela, and Ard, so that's,
5.
no, 7.
Oh, okay.
I don't know, and I wouldn't know how to respond to somebody that
Because
says, how can the Bible lies, how can
Well,
one say?
Then it goes on, the descendants of Bela, and they may be counted then as part of the original sons or
Different
whatever.
wives,
Cause
probably.
that's 2 more. And then
Right, cause
for
they're
Nahum-
Ard and Nahum, they
Yeah.
said that they're original.
You think they were from different wives or women? The different sons?
Sons.
Not all from the sons?
Not
Different
impossible.
women probably?
I don't know, I do not know, but like, if you go to 40, like Terry was saying, and the sons of Bela were Ard and Nahum. And they're saying, so it could have been his grandchildren.
yeah,
Because
he had 5 sons and then the others
Right, could
were
have been.
descendants.
Descendants of
Manasseh
those
was
That's not his sons.
Right.
Right.
as one.
They would
Right,
be
right,
grandchildren.
right.
Yeah, grandchildren.
So, well, this has been a good study. I really